Welcome back to the Into the Box interviews. I'm here with Ray Camden, developer advocate for IBM and a longtime fan of ColdFusion. And he's speaking on, what are you speaking on, Ray? It sounded like a very interesting topic about OpenWhisk.
Yeah, so I'm speaking about serverless with Apache OpenWhisk, which is a project that IBM is heavily involved with as well.
And for those who haven't understood what OpenWhisk is, because it sounds like it, from what I've read, it can do a number of things, some of which are incredibly powerful. What exactly is it?
Well, sure. Let me back up and talk about serverless first, because I kind of avoided the topic for a while myself, because I knew the name was kind of stupid, and even more so than like cloud. You know, serverless I knew was like the exact opposite, unless they were running on imaginary numbers or something. But the best way to think of it is function as a service. So I spent many, many years doing app server work with ColdFusion. Now I'm doing more Node.js, but typically I set up an application server and then I write my business logic in there to do whatever, get time, get temperature, etc. And it's all running in context of an app server. What serverless says is that you literally just write your particular function and let us worry about the infrastructure. Let us worry about how you access it, making it available and all that. So to me, that's incredibly compelling because a lot of times, you know, I'll end up writing code to say, when the request comes in, run this business logic. Now I can skip all that and literally just write a small file that does that one thing that I need for my business logic. So I like that a lot. I look at my history of building websites with ColdFusion, and I see a lot of cases where I could have, and not all the time, but I could have replaced it with something a little bit simpler like serverless.
And what's an example of one of those, just to make it more concrete?
Sure. So one of the things I did a lot with ColdFusion, and I imagine the same would apply for PHP as well, is just talking to a backend table. So select star from cats to get a list of rows from a DB. Select star from cats where ID equals 5, etc. So in that case, literally, like all ColdFusion is doing is saying, oh, I'm just going to hand this off to MySQL, get the result, and pass it back. With serverless, I can do the same thing and skip having the entire application server and literally just have a pretty minimal amount of code to just handle the DB interaction. Sending form contents to an email box is also something that's much more nicer written as a small atomic function.
So this would be called from Node.js or some other? Where would we be calling these functions from?
So when you have your serverless function done, you have a couple of different ways that you can expose it. The most common way would be via REST API. And again, OpenWhisk will do that for you. I don't have to worry about setting that up. I go to my command line and basically say, I wrote a function called getCats, and I want to expose it as an API. It'll be /API/cats, and it will use an HTTP verb get. I do the command line and it's exposed. So then I could go into my HTML, JavaScript, whatever, and write JavaScript code to hit that API and get the data. Sorry, I have a cat.
So any... No worries. So any language that lets you call a REST service, you could call that function from, whether that's ColdFusion or any other language you use.
Absolutely. And also, so these small atomic functions can call each other. So you can have building blocks of, you know, this does one small thing and outputs data. This one does something else with data. And I could combine these two together then to do whatever fancy business logic I need.
And you're not loading an application server to make that call. It's like an ultra lightweight. You called it serverless, which you didn't quite like that name, but you know how when you fire up many application servers, they take quite a few seconds to wake up.
Yeah. So there definitely is an application server running in this case, but I'm not managing it, which is the nice thing. And things like, you may think, oh, wow, every time I call that API, it's going to fire up a Node.js server, and Node being fast, like every time, that's kind of dumb. Well, most serverless platforms like OpenWhisk will be smart enough to say, I'm going to start this up, I'm going to keep it running for a minute or so to see if you keep hitting it. That way you don't have like a constant start, stop, et cetera type thing going on.
So it's kind of like a on-demand a server that's providing this, but you don't have to, set it up or anything. It spins itself up, and it's almost. I think caching is the wrong word here, but it's similar to a cached thing in that the function is available for a certain amount of time to speed things up.
Exactly.
Now, I think you mentioned earlier, or maybe I read it on one of your blog articles on OpenWhisk, that there's some really powerful functionality in there. And I think you even mentioned that Watson thing that can kind of get smart answers to medical questions or solve Jeopardy questions instantly. Or tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So under our platform as a service solution called BlueMix, we expose a lot of the Watson stuff via APIs. And there's much more stuff there than I've ever played with, but like visual recognition of things, text analysis, looking at the personality of the person writing the text. And all of these services are available as REST APIs. So using that via...
So let's just stop that a moment. That means in my ColdFusion app or whatever language I'm programming in that I can call REST from, I can give it an image and it will do image recognition of who the person is. I could give them text from an email or a website and it'll tell me this person is really attentive to detail, or they are friendly, or you should reply to them a certain way.
Yeah, definitely. And that's not even a serverless feature. That's just a feature of BlueMix. So like via a vanilla ColdFusion application, you can use CF HTTP to call Watson services, work on that, and then use it in your ColdFusion app. Now, I'm not talking about that, but that's definitely something that you could do.
And is Watson really an expensive thing for someone to play around with? Or? So
everything on BlueMix, and there's a bunch of services, everything has a free tier. So you definitely have a place where you can try it out and see if it makes sense. I've never paid for it, but every service, obviously we tell you, for $5 you get so many calls a month. For $100 you get so many more calls. I kind of casually look at it.
So you can start off.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, I kind of casually look at them and it seems like it's affordable to me. But I'll be honest and say that I'm not the one paying for it myself.
So, if someone wanted to play around with it, you don't have to put $1 million down to get access to this engine. You can just pay as you go by the query.
Absolutely, yeah. And specifically for OpenWhisk, when I work with it, I run it on BlueMix because that makes it super easy to play and test. That is all free. If you go into production, then you start looking at costs. But you could definitely experiment and write your code. If you don't like that, you can run Apache OpenWhisk on your own servers and just not worry about it at all.
So let's move to the Into the Box conference, because I know you go to a lot of conferences, and why are you going to Into the Box? Tell us more about that.
Well, I really like the people behind it. I'm not doing a lot of ColdFusion much anymore, and my regular blog readers know that. But when I look at the types of things that Ortus is doing, it's extremely impressive. There's pretty much two companies that I think of who are just boosting ColdFusion in amazing ways. Ortus is one of them, and Fusion Reactor is the other.
Yeah, I just spoke with David Tattersall at Integral, who make Fusion Reactor, and he does a lot to help out the ColdFusion, both with their product and supporting conferences like Into the Box or Objective CFL. So neat. So tell us a bit about, you say you obviously you don't do ColdFusion in your day job because you're IBM evangelist and IBM doesn't really do ColdFusion. But you still do it for fun in your own time. Is that true? Or?
Not so much anymore. I have been more focused on Node.js. I kind of feel like I've learned as much ColdFusion as I can. Definitely not to imply that I know everything. I would never say that. But, I spent many years working with Apache PhoneGap as well. And I'm kind of in the same place with that. I feel like I've kicked the wheels and experimented enough with it that, if I don't try something new, I'll go crazy. So the last couple of years, it's been API, more Node.js, static websites, and now serverless.
Cool. And do you use, Lucy CFML when you do touch ColdFusion, or?
Absolutely. I use that, and I use command box from Mortis. That the box server start, and I may have munched up that command a bit, but just being able to have someone send me like a broken CFM file, save it to a folder, and then fire up a Lucy server from the command line with command box, it has just been like night and day. Like if I were to go back full time doing ColdFusion work, that is the tool that I would want to use.
And both of those are open source and zero cost to use. So a great way if you need to play around with stuff. Cool. Well, looking forward to hearing more about OpenWhisk and all the amazing things. I hope you're going to have a demo in this talk of yours, because I think people will be blown away if they saw what it could do.
Absolutely.
That was a nod there, I think, from Ray.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much for sharing with us, Ray.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me.